Chattanooga is my favorite place on earth. No, it's not true. Actually, it's one of it. No, this is one of my favorite places. And this is my happy place. I've lived in Chattanooga a little over 10 years. I think the reason I love Chattanooga so much is because like there's so many different aspects of it. Like it can be a city if you want it to be, or it can be really rural, or there can be abandoned buildings in the middle of like really popularized areas. And I really love Chattanooga because of how outdoorsy it is and how it's really just like what you make of it. I think I'm proud to be a Chat rat because like places like this, like I think that honestly like I thrive in places like this. Like they're so beautiful with all of like the graffiti and like they weren't meant, like when they were building these buildings, like they weren't meant for them to be abandoned. But like it's just cool how like the earth has like almost like reclaimed these buildings with like the ivy and like other like flowers and stuff like growing inside the building. Like I think that's just like so cool. Me and my friends found this in high school. We would come out here and just do really sketchy things, like break bottles and fluorescent light tubes. This is where a lot of the Chat ratness originated, and this is kind of what started my like craving for finding other abandoned buildings. And yeah, this is my second home right here. I think that it just kind of makes me think about like other things that are like in my life that I think are important. Like when I do stuff, I don't like have the intent of them like becoming like barren and rusted over and abandoned, but like I think it just really puts like things in my life into perspective of like what's important and what's just temporary. I feel like ministry and like relationships with people are like what I should focus on more, and like loving people and like loving well, because I think that's all we're like meant to do. Like that's all we're called to do is just love. And I think that I'm like reminded by that, being in places that are so abandoned and like grown over. I think.
Something that you use every day that is small that, some people have so naturally. Some people are born with perfect teeth. Well, I was not that case. I grew up, with, a few crooked teeth, up until I was about 5. And one day I screwed all that up by jumping off of these bleachers at this park. I was wearing cowboy boots, and because I was obsessed with Woody from Toy Story and being a cowboy. So I remember I was in these boots in like 100-degree weather and jumped off these things, and I rolled my ankle and fell flat on my face. And I remember my mom running over to me and there being a lot of blood everywhere and having to go to the dentist. And I ended up knocking 5 of my teeth out. Well, that was only the beginning of all my mouth problems. Through the years, I didn't have any teeth, and 2 of the teeth I had knocked out that day were 2 of my front ones in the middle of my mouth in the top row. So I had all these appliances in my mouth from that time on. I had something from 3rd grade till 5th grade that I had to crank every day with a key. I had braces for 4 years. During the time that I had braces, I was wearing a wire that had 2 teeth wired into it to fill the gaps of my teeth that had been knocked out in the front of my mouth. And I remember the worst part about it was after I got my braces, when I thought my teeth were going to be super straight, they took off the braces and the wires and everything, and I had 2 gaps sitting in my mouth. And the other teeth I had knocked out were in the back of my mouth, so there weren't any gaps there. But the reason I never had teeth grow in was because I'm missing 12 permanent teeth. So nothing was there to grow in after I knocked the teeth out. So that's why I had all these appliances and everything in my mouth. And I remember after I got the braces off, I had to wear this plastic retainer that had teeth in, and I could pop it in and out, and I was supposed to take it out every time that I ate. And, I remember getting it and starting off, it was just so awkward, like being around girls or anything, being at a lunch table, because I was supposed to take off my retainer. And I remember when I first got it, I broke like 2 or 3, but just because I would eat with it in, and then it would crack, and I'd have to get a new one. So just having to learn the confidence of like not letting my teeth define me is such a small thing, but learning to own up to my retainer. Yeah, I didn't have teeth, but it didn't have anything to do with who I was. And eventually, once I turned 18, I was able to have a couple of surgeries where I got implants put into my mouth, so now I have a beautiful smile, and it's not an issue anymore. But it's just something I've learned to never take for granted, and something as small as teeth, can go a long way.